Hey, Derek Keat, Remax Elite.
Phil Jungwirth from DLC Mortgage Force Mortgage Broker.
Awesome, and thanks for joining us today, Phil.
Thank you for having me, Derek. I appreciate being here.
And if this is your first time joining the channel, please like, subscribe, give us that thumbs up, show us some love. Thanks. All right. And the question of the day is basically, how can you improve your chances of getting a mortgage, right?
For sure. And I get this question asked a lot, and I actually like talking to people about this. So one of the biggest things that as lenders look at is going to be, believe it or not, your credit score or your credit history. And so you want to make sure you have at least 2 pieces of credit. I'm going to say whether that be 2 credit cards or credit card and a line of credit card, maybe a car loan or some sort of loan, student loan, whatever it is. Don't just have nothing, because there is minimum credit scores that we have to meet in order to obtain a mortgage. And one of the biggest things I was talking to Derek before this is that people have $1,000 credit card limits, but max out their credit card all the time because they think that having a smaller limit will benefit them. And actually 30% of your credit score is based on utilization. So every time you go over 50% of that credit limit, then it's going to negatively impact your credit.
So like you were saying, like even if, let's say, someone they have a small amount. So let's say they have a $2,000 credit card, but it's almost max every month.
Yeah, that will actually have a negative implication on that credit score, because creditors will look at that and they see, well, these people are maxing, they are not living within their means or maxing out their credit.
All right. So even you were saying, like, if it's best to, as soon as you go over 30, so it's kind of a 30 and then a 50 is kind of a dangerous mark, and then you're kind of going there.
For sure. And you want to stay within those percentages. If you are getting close to that 100%, maybe look at a different piece of credit, get a new credit card. If you need a higher limit, don't be scared of those higher limits. Just make sure, this is going to almost sound like gambling, you stay within that 50% or within it. You stay within your limits. You don't want to get a $5,000 credit card and go to the $5,000 max every month instead of staying within that $1,000 credit card.
Right. And I found that myself too. It was like, well, I only had one product that I was really using, and I kind of had my line of credit, and I had everything else paid off. But then I was like, okay, so when I used up my line of credit, I was like, well, can I get more? I need more. And the banks basically, they're like, no, right?
Yeah.
So I guess in the bank's mind, if you've used all your credit, then, and you're not paying it off, then you don't have the funds to pay it off. So then they don't give you more credit, right?
Yeah, even if you're making the payments, like the interest rate payments, they want to make sure that you're about 50% at least within that threshold. If you have everything maxed out all the time, they're going to be like, well, this person can't live within their means, and if you're applying for a mortgage or credit, they're going to be scared of that.
So don't go above 50, and lower than 30 is ideal,
best.
Right?
Yeah, for
Awesome.
sure.
Awesome. What other things do they look at?
For sure, they look at payment history, of course, so try and always make your payments on time. And overall, if you have fallback, I think a lot of people look at, okay, I have that 5% down payment and that's it. You want to continue to save money, because there are closing costs. As I'm sure Derek knows, there are closing costs with real estate that are expensive. In our province is about $2,000. So an additional $2,000 will be at hand. So just make sure you continue to save, have your credit up to check, and you can always, a good tip that I've learned is there's a website called Equifax. They actually they actually produce credit bureaus. You can check that for free on there, and it's an actual credit score. It's not like Credit Karma.
Okay, all right. And then what would be a good, like, what's a good score?
Yeah, for sure. So the minimum is going to be 600 for a mortgage, but a lot of lenders want to see you around 700. So you want to get to at least that 700 mark. If you are at that minimum 600, you're going to be asked about bigger savings, because you're considered a little bit higher risk. So they want you to have more fallback, like we were talking about, or the income for debt ratio that we look at needs to be lower. So we want higher income if you do have a lower credit score for the house that you are buying.
Right, right. We also talked about ways to improve getting a mortgage. We talked about getting a sugar mama and
Yeah, for
yes.
for sure. Winning the
Making
lottery
more money,
helps, yeah.
winning the lottery, those things help as well.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I think the idea is to work on your credit score. Of course, you can make more money. I mean, that's an obvious.
For
right?
sure. And that's always something to say, but it's not always an option. So I shy away from telling people that
make more
just
money.
make more money and you can afford more, right?
Right, right. So trying to, I guess, get your credit score to where it needs to be to kind of make that. Keep an eye on it as well. I think a lot of you were mentioning some sites there, but the idea is some of them will give updates as well, and you're able to kind of say, hey, this is where I'm going, or this is how it's affected, right?
Yeah, and a lot of banks now on their online portals, they actually have a soft check credit check, which means that it won't impact your credit at all, and you can keep an eye on that score and try and make it go up. And of course, if you do have questions about increasing or what impacts your credit, please feel free to leave a comment below.
Awesome. And what's the best way to get in touch with you, Phil?
I have my email is phil@pjmortgage.ca, or my phone number 780-235-6051.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
For sure. Thanks, Dave,
Perfect.
for having me.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Cheers.